Welcome, everyone. This is the first ever halftime show I've ever done. I was thinking about doing it several days ago, and I finally pulled the trigger and going to try to share some of the in-game betting strategies that I do, and it'll be archived as well for future use, specific to these games, of course. But what we're seeing so far is looking pretty good for my premium private clients that have all access to my stuff, and don't want to get ahead of myself because the betting gods certainly have a way of humbling you, for lack of a better word. But we have a high-scoring game in the Carolina Panthers Cowboys game. 1 minute and 40 seconds to go in the half. Sam Darnold is having another great game, and he's playing. It's amazing the transition from how he played in New York to how he's playing now, and he's playing like he used to at USC, and it's really good to see. I mean, that's a good story for him. And Ezekiel Elliott has 10 carries and 49 yards, but a touchdown. DJ Moore has 5 receptions for 60 yards, 14-13. We had the over in this game, and in game, there's really nothing to play here unless you are going to play on the Cowboys. And the Cowboys in high-scoring games are pretty decent against the spread. And when I say against the spread, that's the opening line, or I'm sorry, the closing line, pre-flop as I call it. So there is going to be an opportunity here. Dallas had it first and 10 at the Carolina 48, second and 10 now. So they actually might have the lead here going into halftime. But if the Panthers would get up by 6 at some point in the third quarter, I think taking a stab at the Dallas in-game line, which would be probably about plus 3.5, plus 4.5 area, would be pretty good, because I do see Dallas winning this game and playing a solid third and fourth quarter here. So if you get that chance, that's one bet that I am putting on my radar. The shock of the day really has to be the Bears, and that's another good story. Justin Fields has not been asked to do too much. He has thrown a pick, but he's 6 for 10 for 109 yards. David Montgomery, if you have him in the fantasy, which I do have him in the DraftKings, I'll have to check that lineup here. 15 carries, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Darnell Mooney, who I also have, 4 receptions, 93 yards. I'm tickled pink with those numbers already. Looking at the Giants are 9-1 against the spread against the closing line when leading at the half, or when tied or leading at the half. So where are they now? I know they were 7-0, and I think it is 7-7 going into the half. Yep, 7-7 halftime. So when they're not trailing at the half, 9-1 against the spread. And let's see where the live line is here now. You're not going to get as much as you would have. Well, it's not that bad. Plus 3.5, minus 105. I think the Giants win this game. From what I've seen so far, they have definitely come to play. And the Saints look a little, quite a bit sloppy. So plus 3.5, minus 105. I'm going to write these down so we can keep track of what I win and lose here. Plus 3.5, minus 105. I'm seeing this at BetMGM. And that is the Giants. And the Saints are also in a good situation for the total. They're 14-7 to the under when tied or trailing at the half. I just mentioned that. You can write these things down for future reference. But obviously at 7-7, we don't have much of an opportunity here. I would not bet under 35.5. At all, and I would pass on that. If this was more of a higher scoring game where we could get a higher line than what was the closing line, which I think was around 42.5, then that would make sense. Jets 9-7, hanging in there. We're on the Jets. That was a circa play as well. I did like this matchup because the Jets are 0-3, but look at the defenses they have played, and now they're going up against a Tennessee Titans defense that some claim is better than last year, but I don't see it, and I definitely see a much more evenly matched game, and that's what we're getting here, 9-7. I believe Tennessee has 3 field goals, obviously, and they're only minus 4.5, but paying minus 125 vig. So there you go. That's telling you right there that people are piling on Tennessee because it's the Jets, and that's the wrong thing to do. Because the Jets, I'm telling you, as bad as they have looked, it's the inexperience of Zach Wilson, bad blocking, just too many errors. But those errors were caused by elite defenses that they played in the first 3 weeks. This is not an elite defense. And despite the fact that it's 9-7, the Jets have a pretty good defensive front in their own right. And now the Jets defense has a second half where they have a reason to really play hard and try to pull this one out. So I think plus 4.5 on the Jets here, plus 105 is a good opportunity. I'm already on the game, so I wouldn't. But if I wasn't on the game, I would be looking plus 4.5, plus 105. Writing these down. Plus 105 on the Jets for in-game right now. Kansas City and Philadelphia, 21-13 at the half. We have the over as a premium play here. Line is a little bit higher for the Chiefs now that they have taken this lead. Minus 10.5, minus 105. I'm seeing. It looks like I would say the Chiefs are going to pull away in the second half. We're at 50. I forget what the total was now. 54.5 for the total. 55.5. But it looks like this game is going to get into the 60s, and I mean, Kansas City could score 27 more on their own merit. The way they're starting to get this engine rolling. They still look very sloppy on the defensive end, but again, the Eagles had a chance to exploit that, but had to settle for a field goal again. And that's, sorry to say, that's what losing teams do, and winning teams score touchdowns. Kansas City has 3 touchdowns and no field goals. The Eagles have 2 field goals, 1 touchdown. But Jalen Hurts and that youthful team has a nucleus now that is going to be pretty good in a very short period of time. Eagles are 0-17 straight up. 2-14 with 1 push against the spread when trailing at the half by 4 or more points and installed as a dog. That's over the last 5 years, and that obviously includes the Super Bowl year. So it really not looking good for the Eagles as a dog here. 2-14 against the number. Looking at the in-game, I'm a little surprised. It came down to 9.5 now, but you're still paying minus 120 VIG. Not sure who gets the kickoff, but if the Eagles get the kickoff to start the second half and could score, I would immediately jump on the Chiefs. That line would come down to possibly minus 5.5. Probably in that 6 area, I guess, is where my mathematical mind is telling me. And the total right now is at 61.5. That definitely seems a little bit high, but there's no play to be made there either. Let's see. Looking at the other games here. If you're listening and you have a question here and you want me to review a game, even if I reviewed the game already, let me know and I'll get right to it. And I'll try my best to keep the comments here where I can see them. So if you say something, I will see it. All right, so so far we have the Giants plus 3.5, minus 105. We have the Jets plus 4.5, plus 105. I'm sorry, minus 105. And then what was the other game I wanted to look at here? The Bears, 11-2 straight up, 10-2 against the number when winning by double digits at the half. They're winning by 14. So stands to reason that, let's see where they are right now, live in-game here. We have Detroit at Chicago, 14-0. Chicago right now is minus 10.5. They just took it off the board. It'll be refreshing here in a second. We'll just come back to it. 14-13, Carolina and Dallas. That game looks to be heading to the over. Look for a high-scoring second half there. Total right now is 52.5. Total was 51.5, I believe, before the game started. So that could turn into a track meet type of affair. Atlanta came back and took the lead at the half. So I had run some numbers expecting Washington to have the lead, and they don't. But here again, the total at 53.5 with 30 points. scored indicates that the market's telling you it'll be a little bit more defensive in the second half. And I really don't think so. Once Falcons get things rolling, and I don't know what Kyle Pitts has done here, but I expected if they did well that they would that he would be involved. We have Matt Ryan 14 for 23, which isn't all that great, but 174 yards, 2 touchdowns. Must have been a couple bombs in there to get 174 yards. Antonio Gibson of Washington, 9 carries, 38 yards. Cordarrelle Patterson, 4 receptions, 68 yards for Atlanta with 2 touchdowns. So there's your 2 scores and a field goal. Josh Allen is having a scrimmage against the Texans, but to be honest with you, at minus 16.5 or whatever the closing line was, I'm a little nervous. I have the Bills actually in the circa, and when you have to pick 5 games every single week, you want to give out your 3 or 4 best bets to your premium clients, certainly. But when you have to add that 5th one, it becomes a challenge. And I went with the Bills, which actually in the circa was the least preferred team to pick. And that made me feel pretty good that despite the fact that you hear that pros always take double-digit dogs in the NFL, there are times where it makes sense to take a team like the Bills 2-1 because they don't want to not show up and end up 2-2, for goodness sake. 3-1, this is a game they must win, and in order to do that, they got to be focused. Josh Allen 11 for 18, 134 with a touchdown. Buffalo's Devin Singletary 7 carries, 37 yards, and they're looking good. Sanders has 4 receptions. I would expect that number probably to get to 7 or 8 by the end of the game. Second half is now starting for the Bears. We went over that one. Colts and Dolphins. Let's see. I can run this real quick here. They're already in the third quarter, but it doesn't really matter. So Dolphins when they score 3 points at the half. Let's see what this brings us. And this is what I do. So you'll get a first-hand view of it. All right, Dolphins. All right, so we have the Dolphins are 15-33 when trailing at the half as a home team, and then if I add a favorite to that, it's probably going to get even worse. So let's do. Well, it didn't give me much at all. So. Really nothing there when I added those parameters to it. But it's where you get the intelligence to, then you have a plan going into the second half. So it doesn't look historically like the Dolphins are, or any NFL team that falls behind at the half at home, doesn't have a tendency for the home crowd to support them in a way that would see them come back and win. It starts going the other way. Things get worse. They have to press. Then the turnovers happen, and that's life in the NFL. Let's just keep going here. I really like the Colts here, by the way. Wasn't a premium play, but it was on my radar. And, of course, sometimes when you have something on the radar and you don't put it on, it does this. But long way to go. Carson Wentz, 13 of 17 for 95 yards. That's a lot of short passes, a lot of control passes that he is very good at, and there's no doubt there. It's the longer pass that he has struggled with in his NFL career. Unfortunately for the Giants, Saints scored here 14-7. So this is where I would do the in-game live right now. Let's see where we are at. And this would be a good way to end because this is a bet that I would want to do. Well, it's minus 115 VIG. And anybody who watches my Manny's Pub shows and the Predictive Playbook shows, I do not recommend paying minus 115 and just be patient. And eventually it'll get down to minus 110 or minus 105. It's plus 7.5. I would rather have 6.5. at minus 105, then 7.5 at minus 115. Only because I do still believe that the Giants will tie this game up and find a way to win for a change instead of finding another creative way to lose like they did last week. So keep an eye on that. If you get to like the Giants receive the ball now and it's third down in their own territory, you might see this pop to plus 8.5. So then that's where you have to make a decision to go with it. Not that you're going to expect the Giants to make the first down. It's just that you still believe in what you believed before the game started, and that the story on the field is not ugly. It's not like you're reaching. It's a game that the Giants are fully capable of tying up and covering that number. I would recommend for the show here at plus 8.5 if you can get it at minus 110 or less. That is an official play for the third and fourth quarters here. Actually, let's just make it for the third because I don't like in-game betting on the fourth. And I've talked about this before where it's a situation where you just don't have enough time. Everything has to go exactly right in a 15-minute quarter, and your risk-reward just isn't as great as when you do it in the first and second quarter. Occasionally like this where we get what we wanted. We wanted the Saints to get the ball and score to inflate the line. So this makes sense, but I would not do anything in-game betting in the fourth quarter at all. Not even a hedge, because if you're hedging something, that means you're winning by a lot. And there's no reason to do a hedge when you're winning by a lot, especially with these in-game bets, which is pizza money and not to exceed 1 unit. I want to be very clear on that as well. But this is how I used to trade on Wall Street with currencies and in the pit where guys were using hand signals and a lot of yelling and screaming, and that doesn't exist anymore. But it's the same type of flow. You want to sell into the strength and buy into the weakness in these game flows. So that's what we're doing with the Giants and the Saints. We're now buying into the weakness that the market is giving us, and that's it. So one more scan here. We already went over the Eagles. Cowboys 14-13. We did that one. The Bears scored. And it looks like it's going to be 21-zip. How about that? That is a big win because if I ran the query, their biggest lead of 20. Well, let's do it for fun, and then I'll let you guys get back to your games. Let's do biggest lead with the Bears at 20 or greater and see what we come up with here. So, biggest lead. Biggest lead. Greater than equal to 20. And then we have and home and team equals Bears. And this is the last 5 seasons. Well, it hasn't happened much, which isn't surprising, but it's 4-0, straight up 4-0 against the spread. And the over-under is even at 2-2, so not much information there at all to share, but safe to say that the Bears are going to win that game, barring some kind of catastrophe. So I think I'll conclude the show here. Let me know what you guys think, what else I can provide. So on behalf of myself and the great sport that the NFL is, may all the wins be yours. Thanks for watching.